Robin Hood Men in Tights hit theaters as one of the last major parody comedies before the genre faded from cinemas. Everyone remembers the songs, the quotes, and the one-liners, but almost no one talks about what really happened behind the scenes. Rushed schedules, legal battles over credits, practical effects tricks, and one audition so electric it launched an unknown performer towards superstardom. These are 25 hidden stories behind a film more crafted and chaotic than anyone expected, and it all starts with a casting call that changed everything. Number 1. The sidekick who became a star. Long before becoming one of the biggest names in comedy, a 19-year-old performer walked into an audition that would change his career forever. Dave Chappelle read for the role of Achu, Robin Hood's fast-talking sidekick, and the room knew instantly. Cary Elwes, who helped oversee casting alongside Mel Brooks, later recalled the moment clearly. They saw many actors, but when Chappelle came in, something clicked immediately. Elwes described the reaction in simple terms. They knew right then and there that this guy was a star. Chappelle brought an energy that went beyond just reading lines. His comedic timing was natural, his delivery sharp, and his confidence remarkable for someone with virtually no film experience. The role became his official big-screen debut, and the impact was undeniable from day one. The breakout was so significant that Time magazine reportedly replaced a standard review of the film with a profile on its young newcomer instead. Chappelle went on to appear in The Nutty Professor, Con Air, and Half-Baked before eventually creating one of the most iconic sketch shows in television history. But it all started here, in a parody movie about a man in tights playing a character named after a sneeze. Number 2. Cary Elwes helped cast the film. Getting the lead role started with one of the strangest phone calls in Hollywood history. When Mel Brooks dialed Cary Elwes at home to offer him the part of Robin Hood, the actor assumed someone was pulling a prank. Convinced it was his friend Jim Carrey doing an impression, Elwes hung up immediately. Brooks had to call back and insist it was really him before the conversation could even begin. Once Elwes signed on, his involvement went far beyond just acting. Brooks invited him into the casting process, giving him a say in who would fill key roles. Together, they auditioned performers, discussed chemistry, and shaped the ensemble that would bring the parody to life. Elwes pushed for choices that would add both comedic skill and screen presence, understanding that a spoof lives or dies by its cast. This collaborative approach gave the film a texture that felt personal rather than factory assembled. Familiar faces like Dom DeLuise and Dick Van Patten, both longtime Brooks regulars, joined the lineup alongside newer talent. Patrick Stewart even appeared as King Richard. The result was a cast built partly on professional reputation and partly on genuine personal connections, a combination that gave the comedy its distinctive energy. Number 3. The famous accent joke explained. One line in the film got audiences roaring the moment it landed, and it had everything to do with timing, when Robin declares that unlike some other Robin Hoods, he can speak with an English accent. The joke was aimed squarely at one of the biggest blockbusters of the early 90s. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner, had been a massive hit in 1991, but Costner's attempt at a British accent became one of the most ridiculed performances of the decade. By the time the parody reached theaters 2 years later, audiences didn't need any explanation. The accent issue had been a running joke in pop culture for months, and Mel Brooks knew exactly how to weaponize it. Casting a genuinely British actor in Elwes made the gag land even harder, turning the line into both a correction and a selling point. Marketing leaned into this angle heavily, positioning the film as the version that got it right. What makes the joke endure is how cleanly it captures the relationship between parody and its source material. The line works because it doesn't just mock, it acknowledges something the audience already felt. That shared frustration became shared laughter, and decades later, it remains one of the most quoted moments in the entire movie. Number 4. A dentist started the movie. Great ideas in Hollywood don't always come from studios or agents. Sometimes they come from a dental chair. After Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves dominated the box office in 1991, an 11-year-old boy named Geordie Chandler told his father, a Beverly Hills dentist named Evan Chandler, that the film was practically begging to be spoofed. The elder Chandler tucked the idea away and waited for the right moment. That moment came during a routine appointment with screenwriter J. David Shapiro. Chandler pitched his son's idea between checkups, and Shapiro loved it immediately. The two formed an unlikely writing partnership, a dentist and a screenwriter, and together they developed a full screenplay that turned the melodrama of the Costner version into outright absurdity. The script eventually caught the attention of Mel Brooks, who purchased it for a reported $500,000. Brooks heavily revised the material to fit his comedic voice, but the foundation built by Shapiro and Chandler remained intact. The whole project began not in a pitch meeting or a writer's room, but in a dentist's office in Beverly Hills, sparked by an 11-year-old who thought a blockbuster took itself too seriously. It's one of those origin stories that feels too strange to be true, but that's exactly how the film came to exist. Number 5. The script had a credit battle. Behind the laughs, a serious fight was unfolding over who deserved credit for writing the screenplay. When the script reached the Writers Guild for arbitration, the question wasn't whether the movie was funny, it was who made it funny. Mel Brooks argued that he and J. David Shapiro deserved full screenplay credit, while Evan Chandler should receive only a story credit for originating the concept with his son. The arbitration process is a standard but tense part of the industry. Writers submit drafts, revisions, and notes, and a panel of fellow writers determines whose contribution was substantial enough to earn official recognition. In this case, the final credits landed as a three-way split: screenplay by Brooks, Shapiro, and Chandler, with story credit going to Shapiro and Chandler. Young Chandler, whose casual remarks started the entire project, was considered for a mention in the credits, but ultimately went unrecognized on screen. Viewers watching the opening titles had no idea any of this happened. The names scrolled past cleanly, giving no hint of the legal back and forth that shaped them. But the dispute reflects a larger truth about comedy. Even the silliest movies involve serious business behind the scenes, and credit battles in Hollywood can be just as dramatic as anything on screen. Number 6. Brooks tried Robin Hood before. Nearly 2 decades before the film reached theaters, Mel Brooks had already tried to crack the Robin Hood legend on television. In 1975, he co-created When Things Were Rotten, a fast-paced sitcom on ABC that turned the heroic outlaw story into a slapstick free-for-all, starring Dick Gautier as a bumbling Robin Hood and featuring Dick Van Patten as Friar Tuck. The show was packed with anachronistic gags, sight humor, and the same irreverent energy Brooks had brought to Blazing Saddles the year before. Critics generally liked the series, but audiences didn't find it. Competing against powerhouse shows like Little House on the Prairie, the sitcom lasted just 13 episodes before being canceled. Its mid-season replacement, The Bionic Woman, went on to become a hit, a twist of irony that Brooks probably didn't find amusing. Despite the quick cancellation, the show proved that his fascination with the Robin Hood myth wasn't a passing interest. When the 1993 film came together, Brooks even recycled a few gags from the old series, including the famous reversed arrow archery trick. He also brought Dick Van Patten back, though not in the same role. Van Patten had hoped to reprise Friar Tuck, but Brooks had already transformed the character into Rabbi Tuckman and cast himself in the part. The movie wasn't just a response to Prince of Thieves, it was the payoff of a creative obsession stretching back almost 20 years. Number 7. Filmed fast to hit summer. Production moved at a pace that matched the comedy's rapid-fire rhythm. Shooting officially began on January 5, 1993 in Los Angeles and wrapped by late March, giving the crew less than 3 months to complete principal photography before the film's planned summer release. That kind of timeline is tight for any production, especially one filled with choreographed fight scenes, musical numbers, and elaborate costumes. The compressed schedule shaped more than just logistics. It influenced the feel of the finished product. Sketch-style pacing, quick setups, and gags that hit fast and move on all carry the fingerprints of a production that didn't have time to overthink anything. Mel Brooks, a veteran of working under pressure from his years in live television with Sid Caesar, thrived in environments where speed forced decisions rather than endless deliberation. By late July 1993, the film was in theaters just over 6 months from the first day of shooting. That turnaround included editing, scoring by Hummin, marketing, and final sound mixing. For a studio comedy aiming to catch summer audiences, every week mattered. The tight window meant there was little room for reshoots or major revisions, and the movie carries that energy, loose, fast, and unapologetically spontaneous in ways that polished productions rarely allow themselves to be. Number 8. Medieval England was California. Sherwood Forest didn't require a trip across the Atlantic, just a drive 35 miles north of Los Angeles. The outdoor scenes depicting the forest, the spring fair, and the castle were all filmed at Sable Ranch in Santa Clarita, a sprawling property in the Santa Monica Mountains that had served Hollywood productions for decades. Its rugged canyon landscapes and open fields made it a natural stand-in for medieval England without ever leaving Southern California. Interior scenes were shot at Warner Hollywood Studios in West Hollywood, a location that carries its own piece of Robin Hood history. The same studio lot was used to film Douglas Fairbanks' Robin Hood back in 1922, making the parody a direct geographical descendant of one of the legend's earliest and most iconic screen versions. That kind of continuity wasn't planned for symbolic effect. It was simply